weekend?
First off, first things first. Travis Hunter is maybe the best college football player that I've seen come in like in a while. Like somebody who's like as prominent as him and who dominates on both sides of the football. Like we don't really see that ever. And obviously he's a really great player. But he is averaging like 100 plus snaps each time they play. The most that he's ever played in a game was 152 snaps. And we're now in a second year in a row where we saw what happened against him in Colorado State, where he got absolutely crushed and like hurt his spleen or whatever. Then he hurt, I believe it was like his shoulder or his back this past week.
Shoulder.
There is going to be a point, and I understand that he wants to play both sides of the football. There is going to be a point where he needs to have that serious conversation because he's obviously going to play at the next level. There's no doubt. He's going to be a top 10 pick.
Yep.
There's going to be a point where he's going to be like, I can't play both sides of the football because it exposes you to, first off, football is an extremely dangerous sport. Football is playing that many snaps in the course of a game. One, it's not great for your body, longevity wise.
Yeah.
Two, that exposes you to so many more opportunities to potentially get hurt. And lastly, just nobody's ever done it in the NFL before. And Travis Hunter's like a slight guy. He's skinny. Like he's not somebody who's like, okay, like, yeah, I can see that. One, I want to hear what you think about that. And then second, I want to hear if it was you personally and you had Travis Hunter's skill, would you want to play wide receiver or corner at the next level?
So I did think about this when you texted me about it today, obviously, and was like, I think that, and I had a new thought as you were bringing it up again. I think my initial thought was let him play both sides in college. I think Colorado needs him on both sides of the football. He's an impact player on both sides, and he's just clearly better on defense when he's there. Obviously, we know how good he is on offense too. That goes without saying. But I think once the NFL comes around, there's always going to be like one guy that go out there and like break the mold as far as talent, skill level, what this person does. Like we kind of saw Jabril Peppers years ago play defense for Michigan, and they were trying to get him to play some reps on offense. Now, that's not even fair to Travis Hunter because he's much better than him at offense and defense. But there will be a guy that eventually breaks that mold. I don't know, and plays both sides in the NFL. I don't know if that's going to be Travis Hunter yet. He's good enough right now on both sides, undoubtedly, to play one of them in the NFL. But we see this week in and week out. Playing in the NFL, every play is damn near like watching a car crash. And for a guy that is as skinny as him to be playing both sides of the football in the NFL, dealing with double the amount of car crashes, it's not something that's going to be sustainable. And I know that me, you, and everybody else out there that loves football, this is a guy that we want to see play as long as possible.
Long time.
I think
real quick, and then before you can go on, I'm even starting to think now, like they should probably, like he should be at a point now, and Dion and Colorado should be at a point where we should pick a side of the ball that we think that he is more impactful on and limit his snaps on the other side of the ball. Because you need him healthy for a full year.
Correct. Your best ability is availability. But what I was thinking about when you were presenting this to me here was a similar situation like that. Like, can we keep him on one side of the ball and then in instances where we really need to, can he go out there and play on offense or on defense, whichever one like they need him most at? I think when he gets to the NFL, he's going to make his money as a wide receiver, even though I think he's a good corner. So he could still go out there on the defensive side of the ball and in some high leverage situations go and play. But I think at the end of the day, he will have the most success in the NFL playing wide receiver.
Wow, I was not expecting you to say that at all.
I knew you were.
I really wasn't. I will say right now that um what Travis Hunter brings to the table as a corner, you like
Really?
legit, you just can't teach.
I know.
He has instincts that guys would dream of. And I think what the reasoning why he's so deep, so talented at that is because of his talents on the other side of the football. But I'm really shocked you said that. I just think he's so much more like I think it's so clear that he's so much better of a corner than he is a wide receiver. Like when I think of Travis Hunter in like the NFL as a corner, like that's the type of guy that's like resetting the market from like a corner perspective. From like a wide receiver perspective, I don't see that in his game like of him like I think he could obviously be a above average starter in the end. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like from like a like I think that he has an opportunity to be like the best at his position if he played corner compared to being like a fringe top 20 to 15 guy at wide receiver, which is crazy to say, but that's just how I feel.
I mean, I think he's phenomenal at corner, but I think you end up making more money and as a wide receiver, and that's why I tended to lean that way. Um, I think if he ends up in the NFL and playing wide receiver, I think I probably have him a little higher up than the 15 to 20 spot that you had him. Um, but again, I guess if you are technically the best at your position anywhere, you're gonna get paid a shit ton of money. So I totally see where you're coming from when you say you have him as like one of those top guys. Um, I don't know. I think a lot of it actually might depend on where, like, who drafts him. I think we could see that start to play a role on um, where he might end up, which side of the football he might end up on in the NFL.
So my
Like
take right now is that he's a top 10 pick as a corner.
okay,
He's a top 20 pick as a wide receiver. Like I think teams have way more interest in him
really,
from a cornerback perspective than a wide receiver perspective. And the reason I say that is because I have a friend who currently he's a college scout in the NFL and his area is like he does Colorado, Colorado State, Idaho, Washington, like Utah, like all those schools. And that is like the rumblings that I'm hearing currently that teams respect his game far more at the cornerback position than like let's say a wide receiver. Not saying he would not be
really
talented as a wide receiver, but just I think that his upside from a cornerback perspective is just higher.
fair. So I'm looking at this right now, and I I think that now that I still think I still think I would have him as a wideout, but it's harder to find a lockdown corner in the NFL than it is to find um, wide receiver talent, like you've said. Um, we've seen these late round guys at wide receiver end up turning into superstars. That's not really something that you see from the cornerback position. So I think you do have some validity from that point of view. I'm looking through like some of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and more of them lean towards needing an elite corner than needing an elite wide receiver.
Well, you also look at like what's going on with like wide receivers. Like Nico Collins was a fourth round pick, and
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
now one of the best he's a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, like all this
Yeah,
shit. And then on the other side of things, there's three guys in, if not more, in every single draft class. Like this year, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. all go in the first round. Are all dudes. There's
yeah,
probably going to be I'm probably missing some other guys who are rookies this year that I'm not thinking of, but obviously those are the three main ones. There are going to be dudes every single year that come in the draft as a wide receiver who's like, you know what, like that guy's really good. And
yeah.
it's been like that for a while now. And I like you said, it's hard. it's really hard to find guys who are like elite corners in the NFL. Like I'm looking at like the list of like the highest paid corners right now, and like when you get to like number 10, the fall off like really happens like quick, where you're like looking at some of the names and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like I don't love James Bradbury or Darius Slay as the 13th and 15th highest paid corners in the NFL.
Not
Like,
at all.
so
Not
it's
at
just
all.
like it's just crazy that like how quick the list falls down. I mean, Trayvon Diggs is at 4 and he looks like a shell of himself this season. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like you said, it's harder to get that key guy at corner. And I think Travis Hunter, like I said, I think that he could come into the NFL and be the best at that position. And I think that means something. I think that teams will feature him on offense in some way. I just don't know if it's going to be the way that he wants it to be. Like he thinks that he's going to be out there every single snap pretty much on offense and defense. And like, if you can't stay healthy in college and prove to everybody like this is a good idea, it's probably not going to translate over to the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be difficult. And I just don't see it being like a real, as good as he is and as well conditioned as he is. I just don't see his impact would end up being diminished if he ended up trying to do both of those things, I believe, rather than unfortunately just dialing in and playing one or the other.
Yeah.
The thing is it's almost feels sometimes underappreciated how important it is having a good corner, because you can have almost zero like statistical impact on a football game as opposed to a wide receiver where you can go out there and have 12 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. But if you're a lockdown corner, it should be it's normally quiet for those types of guys because the football's just not even going their way. But that's exactly what you want from your lockdown corner is, oh, we don't even want them to throw the football to this side of the field because Travis Hunter's over there, Sauce Gardner's over there, Patrick Surtain's over there. So your opportunity to make a direct impact on a football game, i.e. interception, pick six, fumble recovery, etc., is going to be way less than if you're a wide receiver, obviously.
Yeah, and we watched it happen this past weekend with the Broncos. They lose Pat Surtain in the first quarter, and the Broncos made the Chargers look like one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Having a corner, and the Broncos have been one of the most lockdown defenses in the entire league. They lost their guy. They lost the guy that makes everything tick, and they crumbled. So it's really those are like cornerbacks are like the unsung heroes in the NFL. They're so important. If you have a top one, you hold on to them. Those guys usually stay with one team for a really long time. They lock them in, they pay them. That's just like really how it goes. So, I'm curious. Hopefully this video gets views. Hopefully it buzzes a little bit. And if it does, go down in the comments and let us know, where do you think Travis plays at the next level, wide receiver or cornerback, and give your reason why.
The thing that I keep coming back to as to why I said wide receiver is the touchdown that he had at the beginning of the season where he's like basically falling out of bounds, and like I don't even know how he catches that football.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. I think it was like honestly the first week of the season. And that's just not a play that's a play that a top 10 wide receiver makes in the NFL.
Yeah.
So that's why I was leaning towards that.
He's talented. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
He's an anomaly. That's why it's an interesting conversation.
A unicorn.
White clouds blowing out when we max 4-5, not the size, but it kick up highlight of my life, man, attraction.